I'm representing the Indigenous Environmental Network at this event, and also in general Indigenous people as we look at our role in a lot of the conversations. Representation is always a difficult task, but overall I believe the organizers were conscious of the need for inclusion and avoid exclusion, of course, which I think they've done a very good job of that. I think as we were together, we found out more and more the dynamics of inclusion are sometimes the detail is there, as they say.
So this conference broke out into strategic groups, strategy groups.
Yes. Yes.
Do you mind saying what strategy group you were with?
With the solutions, the real solutions, of course. Then we have to reframe what is real, and so our discussion is around reframing a bit of what is a real solution and what is a solution in this day and age. Certainly networking is one of our concerns. After we leave here, as many meetings in a general sense happen, and people have that was a great meeting, and then they go home and another file. And so we're emphasizing the issue of networking and the importance of networking, and trying to set up some institutional structures so that'll happen. Some of the issues that are so far away, but they're right here in your own backyard, and so the identity of the distance is smaller, because I realize, well, that's in Tennessee, but it's happening right up the road.
Well, that's it. That's interesting that you bring up backyard. So, what's in your backyard? What are you dealing with?
Well, in our community, we have a Well, I live in the Oneida Indian Reservation, and we have a checkerboard reservation. So there's Indian, non-Indian land. So there's Indian issues and non-Indian issues right next door. We have a Superfund site that was checked off the Superfund list through a lot of the politics and economics from a local paper mill. And ironically, it was called the Fort Howard paper mill years ago. And Fort Howard, of course, there's a fort there to deal with the Indians differently than just a paper mill. So we have an interesting history when you go back into not only the history of the site, but then the history of the communities. And that's one of the bigger ones on a reservation. And we have a landfill on a reservation. I think there is environmental racism. I think there's documents about that. Research has been done around it. And again, who's the author of it? Certainly, if I send my environmental justice issue, it had an indigenous tint to it. But at the same time, there's more and more, I think, research being done on what's the foundation of the injustice, as much as from color, geography, gender. So there's the issue of justice that's being better understood, and injustice at the same time. So I think we're seeing a relationship between the two that's elevating the conversation about what are we really talking about. So it happens to be indigenous here, maybe Spanish there, maybe Anglos in the South, So it's getting many colors, I think, to the conversation.
Is there anything that I haven't brought up that you'd like to address? I mean, you're an organizer in this event. Is there anything that I haven't asked that you think should be asked? What would you like to say? I'm opening it up here.
Well, I think there's an old equation of land, labor, capital that kind of has contributed to us being in the situation we're in. See it as a crisis, conflict, however you want to see where we are today. So I think that land, labor, capital equation has brought us into this a bit. And now what we need is a new equation for the future, which is land, labor, capital, culture. And I think once you add culture to it, however you want to define it, by a region, by a race of people in a certain area, it's going to change how we see the land and the labor issues and the capital issues. So I think that's one of the key points that I think needs to be revisited, re-emphasized. The other one I'd add is our way of thinking about each other and about the land certainly is another part of it. Then you have the old school, who kind of, and not just about age either, but just old school thinking. It might be your father, grandfather, but it's old school thinking. And then there's the new school, which has a lot of technology and has a lot of insights and energy, different. Then there's a big group of no school. Just don't have a clue, ain't interested in any clues, and that's the group we need to try and address, which leads to our future school. What is the future school that we need to have? What's the thinking that needs to be there, and what's the science involvement? Because there's a debate between indigenous knowledge and science that we need to embrace differently. My grandson has an idea the other day. He plays with Legos, and he said, "Grandpa, I'm going to make a brain ray gun." A brain ray gun? I said, "What is that?" He says, "It's a ray gun I can just point at you and you'll be smarter." I said, give me 2 of those, I told him. So he keeps me going. And that alludes, just last point, is to a way of thinking about 7th-generation philosophy. I think at one time, it wasn't just an indigenous point of view, it's about planning and looking at the future. And I believe it's kind of been interpreted that way, just looking into the future. Not many people can do that. There's a few gods and very intelligent big heads who can see into the future like that. But we're seeing it more in a reframed theme again, is to here I am with my knowledge, skills, and abilities, and then my parents, grandparents, or great-grandparents, if you're lucky now. So there's 3 and 1, and there's 4. And then looking at the future, there's my children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, about what it's for. So trying to build off of that collective intelligence, I think, is a key to moving into the future in a good way for all of us, including the environment.
Thank you.
Thank you.